Um, I work in the spiritual field and psychological field, and today we're gonna talk about Laloux's work, reinventing organizations. So I'm going to do a summary and then explain why it's not green, because some people think it's green. I do believe it's yellow, and sometimes even a little part of it, I think it may be even turquoise. So let's start. So Reinventing Organization is a book written by Frederic Laloux and published in 2014. It lists the different paradigms of the human organizations through the ages and presents a new emerging one, Teal Organizations, which correspond to yellow in SD colors. Teal Organizations represent a breakthrough in how we structure and lead organizations. There is something in the background. Someone has, everyone has muted. Okay, thank you. Teal organizations represent a breakthrough in how we structure and lead organization. And they are built on 3 pillars: self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose. In this salon, we'll summarize Laloux's work and describe the difference between green and teal organizations. So now we're going to see the evolution of organizational models, starting from red, the stage red. The metaphor for it is the animal pack. It used to be the wolf, but some people told me that actually it's not accurate because wolves don't behave exactly like that. So I'll just say animal pack, but how it works. So the decisions are obviously centralized and made by the leader. There's no formal processes. Decisions are based on immediacy, instinct, and force. Conflict are managed through violence and intimidation. The hierarchy is a simple pyramid dominated by a single leader. Roles and responsibilities are defined by the leader and change based on their needs. Can you hear my background or not? Because my dad is here and he's watching TV, and I'm not sure you can hear it. Can you?
Not really.
No? Okay, cool. So the culture of the red level is based on fear, loyalty, and control. And examples of red stages organization would be tribes and gangs. Now, amber blue, because in spiral dynamics it's blue. The metaphor is the military. So decisions are hierarchical and made by authority or higher levels. Strict rules and adherence to norms and procedures guide processes. So a lot of norms, a lot of policies and procedures. Conflicts are referred to rules or arbitrated by higher authority. The hierarchy is a rigid, stratified pyramid with each level controlling the one below. Roles and responsibilities are fixed and clearly defined. The culture here emphasizes order, obedience, tradition, stability, and long-term predictability. Examples of this type of organizations are feudal systems, governments, religion institutions, and I would say some older companies that are not very modern, I would say, are also at this stage. Now we're at the orange stage. The metaphor is the machine. So it's still hierarchical. So decisions are hierarchical, but often include delegation to employees within clear limits. So there is a bit more of autonomy and freedom, but it's very strict. In the limits are really well defined. Processes are goal-oriented, using KPIs and strategic delegation to those who are closest to the issue. It's not all the time, but as I said, it's a little bit more flexible. Conflicts are resolved through performance matrix or arbitration by managers. So when you have an issue with someone, you go to the manager. The hierarchy is an optimized pyramid with flexible layers and sometimes flatter in specific teams, but it's not generalized. It's only in specific teams sometimes. Roles and responsibilities are fixed, but periodically adjusted to maximize performance. And the culture here is driven by competition, innovation, and measurable results. Examples of these organizations are modern companies and corporations. Now, we're at the green stage, which is quite advanced, and the metaphor for it is the family. Decisions are collective and still hierarchical for major decision making. So the hierarchy hasn't disappeared at green. But you'll see that it's different from what we've seen before. So the processes are collaborative and participatory with dialogue, voting, and consensus. So consensus is everyone needs to be okay, everyone needs to agree. If there is one person that disagrees, you cannot have the decision made. Conflicts are resolved through mediation or collective discussions. The hierarchy, so there is a hierarchy, but it is a softened pyramid with servant leaders. We call them servant leaders because they serve the employees. So it flatters the hierarchy in this way. And so the leaders are not controllers anymore, and they are subject to 360 degrees feedback. I don't know if you know that, but we can talk about it later if you have a question. Roles and responsibilities are flexible and adjusted based on skills and needs. There is a great culture in green organization, and it focuses on harmony, inclusion, and shared values. And this is very important for green organizations. Examples of green organizations are NGOs, social enterprises, and progressive businesses. And within these categories, we can find the B Corps and the cooperatives. And now we arrive at Teal yellow stage, the emergent stage, which has as a metaphor the forest. So decisions are decentralized now and autonomous, with individual consulting advisors and coaches and those affected. Processes use consent and not consensus anymore. So consent is no one must disagree. So if one person disagrees, the decision cannot be made, but the decision can be made even though no one agrees. And even though someone thinks that another idea would be better, they cannot give their veto for that. So it really is easier to make decisions in this way. But the most Teal practice would be the advice process. So the advice process is consulting with coaches, advisors, expert people who know, who have the knowledge, so they can make an informed decision. And also they consult with those affected by the decision, so they know what will their decision will impact other people. And with this, they can make a well-informed decision. But the coaches and the advisors and the person affected are not deciding for the decision maker. And these processes are supported by open communication and trust. And trust is very important in these processes. Conflicts are now handled through peer-to-peer dialogue or structured resolution mechanisms. So they learn at the beginning, at the entry in the company, they learn conflict resolution processes. The hierarchy is replaced by self-managed networks without formal leadership roles. Roles and responsibilities are also dynamic and evolve based on the organization needs. So it's not that someone will be in the company with a specific role. They may have a role, even several roles, and it may change over time based on how the company evolves. And the culture here is centered on wholeness, transparency, authenticity, safety, and evolutionary purpose. The types of Teal organizations are living organisms, basically. So it could also be the metaphor for it, but really, Teal organizations are exactly like living organisms. They are also like the traffic. The Teal organizations are like the traffic or the global economy, because these are complex systems, and it has all the same type of dynamic, autonomous, decentralized way of processing, of working like that. So now we're going to talk about Teal organization. We'll focus on these organizations from now. So I want to tell you now how Teal organizations were selected. So Frederic Laloux had screened over 50 companies that had good specificities to Teal, but it was not perfect. So he selected, within these 50, selected 12 companies that are perfectly Teal. So he selected these 12 companies based on the following points. So all Teal companies were financially viable and successful, and this for at least 5 years. They had been operating in their Teal paradigm for at least 5 years. So they were not transitioning and they were not experimenting. They were clearly operating in their Teal paradigm already. The companies needed to be had a sufficient size and complexity. So he selected only companies that had at minimum 100 employees, and some companies had even over 10,000 employees. So we are talking here about large structures, not just small entities, because some people could say, it works only, Teal can work only for small organizations. Well, not for Laloux's organizations, not those he selected. Diverse industries. So you can see that the Teal companies are part of so many different industries, from healthcare to food processing to public service, even to manufacturing, to education, to apparel and retail, to banking, and so much more. So really, it's not specific to a specific industry. It works in diverse industries. These industries are largely self-managed with no traditional hierarchy or formal managerial roles. So that's very important for the Teal organization to be self-managed and have no managerial roles. They're all supporting wholeness, authenticity, personal growth, mindfulness, and emotions. So emotions is really great because it's not something that we could see before, maybe a little bit in green organizations, but in teal organizations, it's really present. They teal organizations focus on purpose beyond profit. So that's very important. And they adapt organically to changes and challenges. And they operate in many regions of the world. So almost in all continents, and including in India, Middle East, South America, and a little bit in Africa, but it's narrow for Africa. But so you know that it's not specific to Western countries. You can find teal organizations in all around the world. The key characteristic of teal organizations are self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose. The three pillars. So for self-management, decision-making and authority are decentralized, empowering employees to act autonomously. The key self-management process is the advice process. We talked about it. So individuals consult those affected and those with expertise before making decisions. An example of that are at Favi. It's a French company, a French brass foundry. Workers organize themselves into autonomous mini factories, each serving a specific customer. Now let's look at wholeness. The wholeness encourages employees to bring their full selves to work, fostering authenticity and emotional safety, and obviously trust, which I said is important. The key wholeness process is safe spaces, regular practices such as check-ins or personal storytelling sessions to build trust and connection. An example of that is at Heiligenfeld clinics in Germany. They integrate mindfulness practices and spiritual workshops for staff as part of their holistic approach. Now, for the evolutionary purpose, we can say that organizations adapt and evolve naturally, driven by a clear and shared higher purpose. Employees listen to and sense where the company wants to go. There is no leader, no person that will have the vision to for their company that they will want for the company and we want people to work on. Here, people will listen to the company because it's like the company has its own soul and it has its own purpose. The key processes for that are purpose-driven goals. Strategies emerge based on alignment with the organization's mission, not for profit maximization. An example of that is at ESBZ school, still in Germany again. They adapt this school adapts its curriculum and teaching methods continuously to align with its mission of nurturing independent, purpose-driven learners. So that's the mission of the company, and they focus on that, not on profits. The key features, so I wanted to give you some keywords, key concepts that to me encapsulate teal companies. So self-management, obviously, autonomy, no boss, no job description, fluid roles, distributed decision-making, transparency with information. For instance, financial information, they display the information. Everyone in the company can know what are the results, the financial results for their teams and all teams and for the company. So they have all the information about the company. Another key feature is conflict resolution processes, tiny back office functions, very important. They all somehow have very, very small back office functions. And they all detect signals. They also, another keyword is feeling emotions, listening to intuition, looking for beauty, and that's part also for the evolutionary purpose, because when there's beauty, there's purpose. And that's how people also know if the company is going to the right direction. Organic processes, yeah, it's very important because Teal companies are highly organic because they are living organisms. And the last key feature is casual attitude. Unlike orange or blue organizations that are extremely formal. How Teal organizations are structured. So we talked about the functioning, but we didn't talk about the structure, how it is structured. So there are three different structures that you can see on the screen. And they are independent teams, interconnected teams, and autonomous clusters. So I'll tell you quickly what it means, because I don't know if you understand just with the visual what it means. So for the independent teams operate independently and handle their entire process, their entire process from start to finish. Each team focuses on its specific tasks without needing help from other teams. The chill feature of these structures is that teams are fully self-managed, deciding how to complete their work without interference from managers. This makes them quick and efficient. The difference from the other structures is that unlike the autonomous clusters, so the third one, these teams focus on simple, predictable processes and have no collaboration with other teams because their tasks are entirely self-contained. An example of that is at Buurtzorg. Small teams of nurses manage all aspects of patient care, scheduling, treatment, follow-ups, and much more independently, providing personalized care without external alliance. Now we're going to go to the interconnected teams. Teams are interconnected and depend on each other now to complete larger, more complex tasks. Collaboration between teams is key to making the system work. They are all interconnected, as you can see, as a connected web. The Teal feature of that is that teams are self-managed but coordinate through tools like the advice process, which is a very, very Teal process, where they consult experts and those affected by the decisions to align efforts across teams. The difference from the other structures is that unlike the independent team, the first team, the first structure, sorry, these teams are interdependent and cannot function alone. Each contributes to a larger process requiring synchronization with others. An example of that is at Favi, the French company. Many factories produce parts for specific cars brands, which each team focuses on. So while each team focuses on their own client, they work with other teams to ensure smooth production and delivery. And the last one, the autonomous clusters. For this one, teams are like self-contained units or modules that operate independently but are loosely connected to the larger organization. They handle diverse, multi-layered tasks. The Teal feature in that is that teams are self-managed and make their own decisions, but occasionally collaborate with other teams to share knowledge or align with the organization's purpose. The difference with the other structures is that unlike the independent teams, so the first teams, this structure suits larger, complex operations. Teams stay independent, but handle broader tasks requiring more expertise and adaptability. An example of that is at AES Corporation, it's an electricity corporation. Each team runs a power plant independently. They handle local operations autonomously, but occasionally coordinate with other plants for innovations or sustainability goals. Now we're going to focus on 3 specific Teal organizations and talk a little bit more about them, their processes and how they, like a little bit more in detail, so you can have 3 example, real life example of Teal organizations. So Buurtzorg is a Netherlands healthcare company with over 14,000 nurses. It's a non-profit organization. They are self-managed teams and they operate with complete autonomy. So the self-managed team operate with complete autonomy. Nurses make all decisions collaboratively without managers. The organization uses a simple coaching structure. Regional coaches are available for guidance, but have no authority. So that's what I said with these types of processes. They consult with people who have some type of expertise, but those experts have no authority. Teams collectively resolve conflict, promoting ownership and accountability. Now let's move on to Morningstar in the USA. It's a tomato processing company, and if you live in the USA and have eaten tomato pizzas or something like that, you have probably eaten their products. Excuse me. So they are about 400 full-time colleagues. So they call the employees colleagues. They don't want to say employees. So they call themselves colleagues. And there are also about 4,000 seasonal colleagues because obviously it's a seasonal company due to the fact it grows tomatoes. So this company is for profit. Employees write their own colleague of understanding, CLOU. It's very specific to Morningstar. So what it is, each employee negotiates their commitments, responsibilities, and goals directly with the other colleagues. Decision-making is entirely decentralized. The company has no formal managers at all. Colleagues can purchase equipment or other resources without approval, provided they consult experts and those affected, so the colleagues affected. The last one is Patagonia. I chose this one because it's different from the other one. It's in the USA. They operate in the outdoor apparel. They have about 3,000 employees, and they're a certified B corporation and also a benefit corporation. The decision does not make strategic decisions. Decisions emerge collectively from internal messaging systems and cross-team collaboration. Patagonia employees are encouraged to dedicate up to 2 paid months annually during work hours to volunteer for environmental activism. Financial transparency fosters trust. Employees have access to detailed financial records to make informed decisions. And the company aligns with its own evolutionary purpose of environmental stewardship. It transfers indeed 100% of profits to environmental causes. So these were the 3 examples, real life example of Teal companies that exist right now in the world. And now we're going to see the difference between green and Teal organizations. So I'll go from green to Teal and so on. So green organizations have consensus decision making. Decisions are made collectively, guided by servant leaders who prioritize inclusion and collaboration. while teal organizations have distributed decision-making. Decisions are made autonomously by individuals or teams based on consent or the advice process. Green organizations are a softened pyramid, a relaxed pyramid with collaborative layers, while teal organizations are an autonomous web, a self-directed web of interconnected teams. Green organizations have shared values. They unite people through common values like equality and harmony, creating a strong sense of community. Very important for green organizations. Those shared values are very, very important for green organizations. While in teal organization, you have the evolutionary purpose. Teal organizations evolve organically with team members sensing purpose and embracing beauty as they adapt to serve the world. So it's completely different. And this, I would say, is even turquoise to some degree. And we can talk about it if you want later. Another thing with green organizations is that they are family-like. Green organizations see themselves as family, prioritizing relationships, belonging, and collaborative atmosphere. It's different from teal organizations who see themselves as living systems. Team organizations view themselves as interconnected living systems addressing complexity holistically and evolving naturally. So this also is, to me, a turquoise characteristic more than a teal one. Green organizations have external focus. They prioritize external causes like social justice, equality, and environmental impact to create a better world, while teal organizations have internal alignment. Teal organizations focus inward, fostering personal growth, authenticity, and collective purpose as the foundation of their actions. And the last green characteristic is that they have rigid roles. Green organizations rely on fixed roles and predefined processes, limiting flexibility in how tasks are assigned or executed, while teal organizations have adaptive roles. Teal organizations use flexible, evolving roles, allowing teams to adapt responsibilities to meet changing needs. So reflect, how can you integrate teal principles into your organization, any organization you have? And experiment, start with small steps toward self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose. And if you want to know more about it, you can go to reinventingorganizations.com, which is the book website. You can also go to reinventingorganisationswiki.com, which is like Wikipedia for reinventing organizations. So you'll find a lot of information, and a lot of information, especially about the teal companies, in more detail. And obviously, you can go to youtube.com because Frederic Laloux has a YouTube channel here with a lot of videos, small videos that walk you through the teal processes and will teach you about anything about teal organization. And that's finished. So I can unshare my screen now. Here we go. Are you here? Are you here? I can't hear anyone.
Can you see the group now?
Yeah.
Do you want me to stop the recording?
As you want. What other people want, I don't know. It can be interesting also to record the whole thing, but I don't know if you want to show up in it.
Okay, I'll leave it on because it would probably be
Okay.
interesting.
Okay.
Jonathan,
Thank you, Paul.
thank you very much. That was
Yeah, I was thanking the other Paul because he said that it was a great presentation. But thank you also for registering for recording.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. That was really great.
Thank
I,
you.
I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
You explained it so well and just so clear. So the thing that I would want to ask for more clarity about is these teams that these Teal organizations have. They don't have any designated manager of the team. Like they don't say, okay, you're going to be the manager of our little team now or something. Like I just that's just
No, and
feels
sometimes
weird.
yes, they can, but if they ask someone of the team to do some coordination or managerial thing, it would change. It would be on specific on something specific, and it would change very quickly because they don't maintain such position for a long time. So obviously, it can happen that we need someone to coordinate,
Okay,
but it's really for a temporary time.
I see. So another thing that I was really struck by is that the degree of responsibility that each employee has to have in a Teal organization is so high, and they also have to have interpersonal intelligence to be able to get along with other people without clearly assigned roles, so that they know, so that they're not just going to be spilling their stuff all over the place, and they have to have emotional intelligence. Like how are you going to get people? Like those types of people are like usually the CEOs of companies. They're not, it's very rare to find a company consisting of like all the employees or have that degree of responsibility and interpersonal and emotional intelligence and competency in what they're working on. So
Yeah.
how do you see
Yeah,
that?
actually, well, first it does exist, so it's working, it's there, so we have the proofs. But how it's working, basically, at Favi, they create some pieces for cars, and they are blue collars, so they are workers, in factories, and they can make all the decisions around their work. They don't need someone else to tell you what to do because they know their work. They work on their machines all the time, and actually, more people, everyone in this company have actually learned to use the machines. If one day, sometimes it happens that they have a lot of work to do and everyone goes, even like the CEO, everyone goes and use the machine, but it's not all the time. But I find it very interesting to know that. But clearly people know how much to make decisions are there at their own level. They are not making decisions for other people, for other teams. They make decisions only for what they are responsible of, and because they know what machine they work on, they know if they want a new machine, they know exactly what machine to buy. Because if it's in a normal company, it's someone who doesn't know anything about machines, who will and nothing about the work, who will buy something, and then the employee will not work will refuse to work on this machine, and they will resist, and they will say no, it's not a good machine, I don't know why they bought that. So if they have the freedom to, oh, give me one sec. If they have the freedom to purchase their own machine, they will do a great job with it. And because they know how much money the company has and everything is there, so you just know if you have the money or not. And if you don't know if you have the money or not, you can ask someone at the financial department and ask them how much money do we have and so on. So then the person knows exactly what they need to make an informed decision, and that's how they make decisions that are possible, first of all, and that work. But just because they make decisions on things that they know about, and everyone does the same.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah. In like the tomato processing company. So like we're talking about like people who don't necessarily have education, even necessarily a high school education to become a tomato processing person. So, but
Yeah,
they
but
still manage to do it.
it started with one truck, and then it grew. But the CEO wanted this from the beginning, so it just happened like that. He said, "I don't want to take any decision, so deal with it," basically.
Very interesting. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but really, I think it's just because people do take their decisions only on things that are relevant to them and that they know about, because that's their area of expertise. That's their, well, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If you are just a worker, you will not make decisions on things that are not related, like that are not related to what you do all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Do you have another question?
I have more things I could say later, but I want to give another person a chance.
Okay.
Oh, this, following up on that, John, this sounds to me like artisan. And, you know, a small craftsman, small farmers, even cathedral builders, for a couple thousand years have been able to do their crafts without top-down, God says you will do this crap. And, you know, quite frankly, if you look at things that were done with an artisan mentality instead of done with a corporate mentality, you will find that we all like the artisan stuff a whole heck of a lot better. It lasted longer. It was more fit for purpose. And now, you know, we just clean some ticky-tacky, and nobody really likes them, but they're cheap and semi-useful, right? So I'm thinking that it just sounds to me that what Teal does in these manufacturing, you know, it takes kind of the Deming work a little bit farther, where people who are doing this on a daily basis know exactly what they're doing. And, you know, the point that you made, Gaelle, about managers coming from Harvard Business School and never having seen a tomato grow in their lives. I mean, you know, I've worked in big business, and I've seen that, you know, consultants coming in and MBAs who knew nothing about the business, right? And it's like, you know, the questions they would ask, you know, we would just roll our eyes and go, where the heck did that come from, right? And
Yeah,
so the
exactly.
idea of treating physical work, of treating plants, and of treating work like an artisan model, where I'm good at it. I'm good with my hands, and guess what? My brain knows exactly why. It knows when. I mean, you know, I've worked with mechanics, not very many of them under 40, who, you know, you drive your car in and they go, "Oh, you got a problem with X," right? I mean, they can literally hear it from your motor running. And it's those kinds of models that worked for 1,000 years, right? They produced wonderful goods and services. And I like the idea of going back and making a plant floor worker, a person who runs a machine, a person who drives a truck, an artisan again, and giving them control. You know, the old apprenticeship models would be to have a master who really knew everything about the process, right? And managed it in their head, because some of these people weren't even literate. And, you know, I hear that all the time from managers. Oh, well, you know, these shop people, they're just not literate enough to do it. And yet then I hear what the MBA managers have to say, and it's like, well, there's ignorance and then there's ignorance, right? And just because I read it in an MBA book doesn't make it real in the world. And so I think those of us who are overeducated, yeah, probably need to get a lot more conscious of the value of being able to do things in the real world, you know, especially with the metaverse and all this crap. You know, you don't eat it. It won't keep you warm at night. You know, the idea that everything can be done with scientific brain power and there's no artisan to it, I think we need to seriously rethink that. And I love the idea of a model to do that, Gaelle. Thanks for presenting that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're muted, Paul.
I am the one who must tell people.
No, that's
to-
okay.
Okay.
I can keep track. It's just that I had my hand
Okay.
raised, but I didn't
Okay.
turn off my mute. I guess adding on to what both Jonathan and Barbara said, which I think were great insights. This really has the feel. I'm going to focus on the evolutionary purpose that you had in your presentation. It seems like, you know, another way to describe evolutionary purpose could really be applied to those old guilds, if you will, that Barbara alluded to, you know, in the very beginnings of the creation of the capitalist system. You know, they weren't there to maximize profit or return on investment. They were there, yeah, to support their own lives, to grow as individuals, to grow their individual crafts. But, you know, if you study the history of them, they were also cognizant of the fact that they were, you know, they were creating something new and different. And it seems like this evolutionary purpose is a good, really kind of mimics that, and it's a good substitute for the incessant focus on profit that our capitalist system has evolved into. I remember a number of years ago, I attended some seminars at Harvard Business School, and one of the presenters was a gentleman who had been an author of a book about they used to call it the balanced score sheet or balanced scorecard, where he talked about this. You know, you can't just focus on profit. You have to consider employees and your quality and the service you provide, and you have to consider your customers. So you can't just say we focus all of our attention on maximizing quarterly return on investment. So that's I need to do a lot more thinking about what this whole evolutionary purpose, the power of what it can be.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know.
Go ahead, Gaelle.
Me?
Yeah.
I just want to say something about what you just said. Actually, I'm not sure people used to do something new, because in the previous paradigms, for instance, blue, people were repeating constantly what they knew how to do. And so they were doing the same thing over and over again. There was no change, and that's also why in these companies there were no R&D department or marketing department or these types of department. They were just doing the same thing over and over again, what works, what they had learned before. And maybe it was a little bit different, but I think it was more a repeating thing than a creative one.
Right. Yeah. I would agree with that.
And with the evolutionary purpose, basically it's like you consider that the organization has a soul and it wants to go somewhere, and so you just go with the flow, actually.
Yeah.
This is what it means. So for instance, Birdsorg, there was one nurse who noticed that many old people were breaking their legs or something, and so they knew how to prevent that. So they taught the people that they were working for, they were caring for, and basically this was heard by other teams, and so they asked, how did you do that? And so this became a new thing, and now I think it's called Buurtzorg Plus or something.
Mhm. Thank you. Paul Fryer, you're next.
Yeah, it's great presentation. I was just looking over it, integral versus green, and it's interesting because I can intellectually sort of like feel the different think of the difference, but like I can kind of feel it too, and it relates to like I think peak experiences I've had at integral. Like there's just such a dynamic sense of like development, and I think you kind of touched on it, Gaelle, just then saying about the soul of an organization or something. Like it almost felt like there was an implicit like group hive mind in the best kind of way. I ended up thinking, I guess, similar to some of John's question, which was like imagining a integral community or business and being like, how much, to what extent, like sometimes I've heard in the integral community a debate around the quote community of the adequate. Like, how much do you need the members of a group to have specific integral capacities? Versus like one of the things that this makes me think of is if you just start slipping some elements of integral business, like for example, one of the things on the slide was like being revolving around a sense of purpose and personal development and a sense of like beauty and the power of that in the world. Like if I bring some elements to an organization, like are some of those integral principles enough to start transforming the organization, or is there like a threshold? And part of the question is that is when I hear the presentation, I'm kind of thinking of like, how can I apply this practically? Like I'm very interested in the sort of integral community and all of the various endeavors that are going on, but I also see like a lot of fighting and a lot of not being able to kind of communicate. And it's interesting because I think, can some of these things be applied to that, to be able to basically apply it to our own projects or our own involvement in integral? So I'm sort of half putting just that out as a question, and also just curious, Gaelle, if you have any ideas, but studying it on like, is it kind of practical to use in our own projects?
Okay, so actually the only person or people who need to be yellow or teal are the CEO and the board. If there's only the CEO, it can still work, but the board may fire him or her. So it's good if the board is also on board. But other than that, you don't need to have the employees being at Teal, because the CEO will keep the space for the Teal characteristic to be put in place, and those of the employees that don't want to stay, they can leave, and usually they are offered good money for that if they want to leave. So the employees are told that the company will change, and so if they want to stay, they it's great, but if they don't, that's fine, and they have some money for if they want to leave. So that's how it helps the whole thing function, because the people who are there, they're okay with it, even though they are not yellow. The company function in a specific way, so they do it. It worked. I don't know so much how to explain, but basically when the CEO start to make the changes, then it can take 1 year in some places, because some people, they are blue, they don't, yeah, so it's not necessarily easy to do it quickly. So usually it takes a long time. It takes at least 1 year for some companies to move from traditional to Teal. But then the employees, they are okay with these changes. That's one thing. And second thing, it doesn't require them to have specific abilities, because what I think is that, you know, these people, any person at any stage can have a family and look after themselves and find money and eat and meet all their needs and everything. So people are capable of functioning. I mean, they are capable of doing what it needs. They are capable of handling their own money to not spend it all on something not needed and starve then. Well, not everyone can do it well, obviously. But what I mean is that people are already autonomous in real life, and it just gives them the same level of autonomy in the company, actually. And for the how to bring some Teal characteristics in our different groups and organizations, well, I think first it has to be something I want to do, really, because are you really wanting to give up your power? Because these CEOs, they all have given up their power. They all say, no, I don't want to make decisions. And when people come to them to say, oh, yeah, and the CEO says, no, I don't take any decisions anymore, so you have to find a solution with your colleagues, then people will start to act autonomously, and also they will be responsible for what they do, so they won't be able to cry then to the managers to say that, oh, this team is favored, or oh, I would like more money, I would like an increase of salary, or blah blah blah, because people now they decide what salary they want to have, and they decide everything. So they cannot then behave as children they behave as adults. And I think they are adults, so it's just normal that they can behave as adults, because in their life they behave like adults, and they even have children oftentimes, and so they know how to be adults in real life. So it's exactly the same thing in a Teal organizations. Actually, you just have to be an adult, that's it. And I think I didn't explain what you could do for to start implementing a little bit of Teal in your life. So yes, I said, first of all, you need to really want it, because as I said, it's not necessarily easy. Once you have to take the decision to remove all your power, that's when you will hesitate, because it's, at first you can say, oh yeah, of course I want to do it, but then when it's the moment to do it, I'm not sure you will actually do it, because yeah, it's a very big thing actually to say no. I don't want to take decision for my group, for this group. It's my group. I created this group and or this organization, but I'm not taking decisions for people. So that's one thing. And the second thing, you can reread. I can send you the. I can share the slides in Facebook, so you can all have it, and you reread it and you see the different characteristics, and you try to see what in that you can that can work for your life, for just small steps.
Nice, thank you.
I don't know if I gave you really good answers to how to start being Teal, but
No, it's a good point. I mean, it's a big topic, so any insights always good.
okay, cool. Thank you for asking.
Thanks. Emil had his hand up. Are you no longer interested in saying something, Emil?
Oh, thank you, John. I can try
Okay.
voicing something. Yeah, I'm just feeling that at least in Norway, I think the university, which is kind of the leading edge institution in any society, operates at green at best. So they produce postmodern ideas. Business life is hovering around orange, achieving, and the military and school are blue functioning institutions. So I have never actually seen a Teal organization in Norway. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm not functioning at Teal in my own life. I have never been inside such an organization. So I will definitely be cautious about hubris here. I have no idea what these guys are and girls are sort of doing in these places. I have read this book, I think 2 or 3 times over the years, and it's really a Bible. Whew, and it just makes me breathe every time I read it.
You read Laloux's book, you mean?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I think 2, 3 times, and this is my second or third copy. Yeah. Well, I've tried to implement stuff in context I've been living in, my family and my friends and organizations. I worked at a hospital for 2.5 years. The doctors and nurses were hovering at expert functioning, and I sat in a certain meeting, and I was reading Laloux, and I kind of wanted to do I wanted to try the Teal meeting thing, and I just crashed so bad. I started to voice my emotions. I started to say what I was feeling as tensions. The group leader had a huge narcissistic drive to be I'm the one who's got the answers. Everybody is second to my opinion thing going on there. So yeah, I just am so fascinated by how you can bring this out to any context. I just remember I read about this top leader who came in, and this female, what she did to this organization of 50 people, I think, she said, everybody is fired. Everybody's temporarily fired, and everybody needed to apply for a job, and they needed to have 5 people recommending them from inside the organization. And that was so bold and revolutionary. It just strikes me at that kind of courage to flip things. I feel is called if you really wanna flip things around at a major scale. At my own scale, I have a personal practice of giving feedback, trying to speak 1% more from my longings and my intuitions and my dreams, and not only evidence. So that's my mini practice. I would love to work in a Teal organization, and my heart yearns for it. I just haven't found it. Yeah, I'd love to co-create it though. Yeah, that's my share.
Thank you, Emil. Jonathan, Barbara, Graham's got his hand up. He hasn't had a chance to talk so go ahead, Graham.
Okay. No, it's good. I was fascinated. A lot of aspects. I mean, one of the things you were talking about recently about this way of suddenly going through, suddenly telling all your workers that they're empowered, then suddenly backing down. I mean, I remember seeing that a lot when I worked in banking. I mean, it was a mixture of blue, and there was some orange getting in because I ended up working with traders who often can be very, very orange, and it's where you start getting this sort of the big bonus culture and everything like that, which has been so corrupted. And one of the things noticed there, suddenly we start. I mean, in the early days, I mean, one I see when you start seeing the orange as that is how abstract at times everything can be. The units, the mass production, everything like that, and it made me think of something we were talking about when we were talking about the good and bad of things like red and thing. One of the things about orange is when it starts getting bad, it's bad also happens in a more absolute, in a more abstract way, and we maybe get the alienation, and then maybe something we're coming at is an attempt to, I mean, with every meme, new meme is if you like to initially overcome some of the limits of the previous meme, and we used to get this very often talk about having empowered workers, motivated. I get all that. Then something would happen, and suddenly all would be going back down to the green ring because suddenly somebody got frightened about what was going to happen, what had happened before, about somebody had even made a mistake. It's very interesting what is about mistakes and the right kind of wrong as well, which has just been published in that. And that was one of the things that fascinated me. But it was also this movement from abstract, in a sense, to a slightly the structure. We almost had the sort of very much the production line type of organization with orange, and yet the green starts returning that, becoming aware, or above that, and even above that, becoming aware of the sort of empowerment of how perhaps we're here to fulfill ourselves as well as just to make a biggest number of units and maybe be paid as units in doing it. And that was really one of my fascinating part of it. You're describing that sort of process, and maybe also tapping into what's sometimes been called the wisdom of teams. How sometimes an individual isn't perfect, but a team, if all the individuals are working in the same direction, you sometimes get something that's more than the sum of parts. or at least there's the potential
So
to
what?
do that.
So what was your question actually?
Well, it's not so much a question, more an observation. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know
Okay,
if you recognize
okay.
from that some of the things that you were talking about.
Thank you, Graham.
Okay, thank you.
Jonathan and then Barbara.
Yeah. So one of the things that the slides were saying about Teal organizations is that everyone is trying to express beauty, and that gives them a sense of purpose and helps them to actualize themselves within the context of the organization, I think, because expression of beauty and striving for beauty is what's meaningful. Is that about right?
No, it's not exactly that. It's that when you do something and it's beautiful, then you know it's aligned.
Okay, but it's not about, okay. But is it about people also having the independence to determine what is beautiful in the organization?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So beauty is like, that's where we get, I think, to so much of our subjectivity. There is, it really gets down into the core of who somebody is as a person, what they find to be beautiful. What I find to be beautiful, I doubt that anyone else in my life or here would find to be exactly beautiful in exactly the same way. They probably would nuance it differently. So it's how do you even get people to cooperate around that? Uh, how do you see that?
I think that's we talk a lot outside of this group. We talk about subjectivity and objectivity, and you kind of don't like the subjectivity thing. And I think
You
it's
can't
just
what? I didn't hear the word. You can't what?
you don't like the subjectivity thing.
No.
Not so much. I would say it's just a subjective thing. Beauty is subjective, so you just obviously not everyone will see the beauty exactly the same way, but when you produce something and you find it to be beautiful, then you know you have somehow listened to where the company wants to go or what it is about, its mission. So I don't have an example right now. But if I have one that comes up later, I'll tell you. Or if it comes even after the presentation, I'll write it on Facebook in the group Facebook group. Well, do you what do you have another question, or is it, or because I'm not sure what exactly you want to know.
Well, my question is just how do you get people aligned on something that's beautiful? Like it sounds like to be a teal organization, people need to be working on beauty, and beauty is going to be touching to the most individualness of that person's being. And so I can, if I'm working on my own personal creative project, no problem. I can work on what I feel is beautiful. But if I'm trying to work in a team with other people, like how many other people,
Well,
it's almost
okay.
impractical for me to find another person who's going to see beauty, even enough overlap of beauty that with me, unless I just happen to find someone who's really
Okay.
similar in their way of thinking and everything.
I understand. Okay, so for instance, this meeting that we're having, I think it's very fluid, and I feel it good. So to me, it has some beauty. I see beauty in there. Unlike the previous meeting, but it's not visually that I can see that. It's just, well, maybe you can see it in your mind's eye, but I just sense that that's beautiful because it's fluid, it's harmonious. So yeah, you can think of beauty as a feeling or like harmonious feeling.
Totally. So you and I may be able to resonate with that, but what there it's okay, this still requires a high degree, I think, of similarity of developmental stages and stuff for people to really resonate around beauty.
Well, actually, scientists, when they find some interesting things in their studies, they often say it's what the numbers are beautiful. What they have found in the number is beautiful. So even like people who are very grounded and down to earth, they have this sense of beauty. So I think anyone can be touched by beauty. It's not something you need to work on specifically. Well, you can still work on, but it's something natural that you can sense and feel. For instance, when you think of your life, what do you think is beautiful in your life? And in teamwork, what do you think is beautiful in this teamwork? Or yeah, it can be like that. If you create objects, then it's clear how what we mean by beautiful. But yeah, I think it's just everyone can sense when something is harmonious. Everyone knows when it's argumentative and conflictual. So I think everyone knows when something is harmonious.
So yeah,
Sometimes you don't have the same idea of what is harmonious, but when you work with other people and it works well, it's fluid, then it's beautiful.
yeah. So, not to take up too much time, but I'll just say I agree that there's like bookends of what's beautiful, like what you're describing, that people could generally can have a consensus about that that's beautiful. I think that the issue comes up when we get into the complexity, because generally things which are beautiful may also have some component of them which may not be so beautiful. For example, if my company's creating a product, I worked at an acupuncture needles company once that was distributor of acupuncture needles, and it's really beautiful to be helping people to acupunctorists to create this holistic healing practice that's going to be great for the world and in a non-invasive type of Western medicine way. And that's really beautiful in and of itself. But I think other people might feel that like, well, the company also has a profit drive and that it moved away from its original idealism a little with that profit drive, and that starts to taint its beauty. So like the question is, how do you, when you have different beauty is usually not pure beauty. It's not pure beauty would be something like what people imagine God to be. So every human creation is going to have different there's going to be compromises between the different competing priorities about what's practical versus what's ideal. And some people, I think a lot of it may also depend upon like the stages of justice that I was sharing from Kohlberg in previous slides, where different people, depending on their stage of justice, will have more of a reaction to what appears to them as a slight flaw or in the earlier stages, it might not bother them at all. As they go up the stages, then those slight flaws might feel like they're real injustices to them, and they don't justify, and that gets in their way of saying that the beauty is justified at the expense of some degree of injustice. So I think that issues of justice and different perspectives on issues of justice can really get in. They often cause conflict between people. So even if people agree that something in essence could be beautiful, but because there's so many practical compromises that you have to make on the way to actually creating that beautiful thing. Anyway, that's
Well, okay,
my concern.
so I understand very well. It's a good question, actually. Steel companies, they try to make the company purpose first before profits. So if you're looking for meeting the evolutionary purpose of the company and not the money, then you will have less things to regret, or you will have less ugly things. Because for instance, Good Sword, their mission was to help older people to be independent, autonomous, not independent, obviously, but autonomous. And that's what drove all their decisions and all their actions. So when you try to achieve that, and you have a conflict, like, if I do this, it will serve the purpose, but at the same time, it will be less money in our pocket. Well, if one is more important than the other, if you value purpose more over money, then you will make a choice. So of course you will have less money. So that's not as beautiful in some way to have less money, but at the same time you value purpose more. So it has all the beauty you value, actually. Does it answer a question?
Sort of. I mean, I think that requires a lot of very idealism amongst the employees of this company if they're going to actually put that value of those things that are beautiful above money and sort of selfishness.
Well, that's Teal Organization, what they want to do. And green companies, they are very focused on shared values. So I think that's something that starts at Green, actually, to think about meaningful things over profit. So it starts at Green, and then Teal is just a continuation of that, even to her even higher degree.
Mm-hmm.
So just look at green companies, what they try to do. It's not all perfect, but do we need it to be perfect? I'm not sure. You just do what you can with what you have, with your values and intentions, and you move with the flow with all this.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barbara,
You know, it comes to my mind that Jonathan has an artist's view of beauty, not and an educated artist's view of beauty, not an artisan's view of beauty. So when we're talking about people on the shop floor producing something, I think that it's easy to get a consensus of what they've agreed to produce and how, and you know, beauty isn't some pretty picture to artisan folks. It's functionality and its utility in the world, and all of those things that that folks on the shop floor really can be proud of and can buy into. So I think we're getting that abstract level that that we're not realizing what a consensus you can have. I think what I see a lot of times from the shop floor is that in orange organizations, they're making things that they don't believe in. They know their quality is a piece of you know what, and that there's a power over, and that's what happens to you at the bottom of an orange organization. The boss has power over your work and tells you what you will make and what poor quality it will be, and you're stuck with it, right? So one of the beauties that you see in self-directed teams at a shop level is that individual workers can exercise their own views of what's a quality product, their own feelings about how that shop floor should be run, their own feelings about how an artisan should be making these products, without being told, "Oh, I'm sorry, we know that we're going to have a 5% defect level. Too bad, so sad. They'll just ship it back and we'll melt it again." That sort of thing hurts when you tell shop floor people that they have to put up with that. So and it suddenly gives them power to do. They lose that concept of power over, and they now have power to do their job the way they think it should be done. And to them, that's an incredibly beautiful way to make products. And normally when you see, when even some of the Deming stuff, which was not, I don't think, necessarily second tier, went right to that and looked at
Demi, what was the word
what
you
it
used?
came
Demi?
from.
Deming.
Deming.
What's the word?
Deming, who was a researcher in
Oh.
self-directed teams on shop floors, particularly looking at the bottom. In some ways, it feels to me like green organizations don't have a lot of respect for people at lower stages and with lower educational levels. And so it's hard for them to envision what a beautiful product coming off a shop floor looks like to the artisans that are making it. And especially as we get more and more into the metaverse and further apart, they're away from real things that had quality to them, instead of the let it fall apart and throw it away because we can then sell 20 new ones. So I do think that that maybe that this self-direction at lower stages, I loved what you said, Gaelle, about people were able to perfectly well manage their life for 1,000 years when nobody was even orange, right? Now, and a lot of individuals can, and we see that in society more and more, that we see that underbelly of people that can't, being highlighted. But I don't think you need to be second tier to be able to manage your work life if you're working on something that you enjoy doing. The problem becomes so many people don't enjoy doing it, right? They're in sweatshops, their experience of managers is pretty toxic. And so, this is a way not to look at a bunch of teal people getting together and doing something abstract, but a teal way of going into organizations that are mostly appropriately at lower stages, because manufacturing is not a teal activity. It's something that hands-on folks like to do.
Barbara, you're making some really interesting points, but we got some other people that have raised their hands. So could you quickly
and some new people.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead, quickly wrap up what you were talking about.
Oh, and I think that this is a way to look at old organizations as well as fancy new virtual organizations. And maybe we need to think about how we need to bring people at lower stages into better organizations that respect them more.
Yeah. Paul, you and Marjorie are up next. Marjorie hasn't had a chance to talk yet, so I'll let her go, and then Paul Fryer.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And thank you for a really, really, really wonderful presentation. In terms of beauty, I'm thinking that possibly we are mixing levels of development in terms of second tier with states of consciousness, states or stages, because because beauty in particular can be considered to be a state of consciousness or a stage that can be at any level. So people even at lower, even purple, can have an appreciation of beauty, and they can be at a lower level. So that I'm not sure how that relates to the organizations that you're talking about, which are second tier. But I think in terms of beauty, uh, from a state of consciousness is available to everyone at any level of development. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Paul, go ahead.
One sec. I'm trying to like pull a bunch of people's comments into where I was originally going. I think part of it actually it relates to what Marjorie was talking about, is there's something amazing about the level of consensus, like, and presumably like almost intuitively that happens with a company. Like where I was originally going was listening to Emil talk about I can't remember the words you used, but essentially I guess a lack of receptivity or authenticity as you were sharing, and this capacity to be with the real substance of, like, in that situation, maybe the people, or with Emil, which to me in a way may go above green, because there's certainly authenticity at green, but there's maybe a lack of like challenge, because at some point authenticity is going to be like someone may challenge you on what you are saying is authentic for you, or whatever's. Which to me related a little bit to what Barbara was talking about in terms of dealing with the lower levels, like especially at Orange, but maybe Green does this too, where it's like maybe there isn't a connection with the real substance of what makes a company or organization work, like the people, the actual items that you're really making, and really appreciating this sort of very grounded, practical level of a company, like really having a deep sense of intimacy with that. And it just made me think of, I know it's this repeated thing when I get in these groups of like reapplying it practically and being, it's an interesting question how this stuff applies to our little group here. Like I was kind of thinking in some ways there's a sort of healthy, I've always loved the phrase flex flow, just as the polarity. Like there's enough structure and there's enough flow, which to me sounds like some of the ways that integral organizations work. Like there's clearly structure, people having defined expertise, but they also manage to combine with one another. And I sort of see that even in my, I think this is maybe the fourth one I've been on, but like people have a presentation like Gaelle's today, or like morality and faith, I think we were doing last time. I can't remember, but I can't remember the other ones. But anyway, there's these like topics that people will present. So there is a degree of expertise, but then it's opened in this way that's organic, and everybody has a degree of like authority that they can share with. And it's like the degree to which we're integrating each other's intellectual arguments, as well as intuitively having a certain like presence to just be with and absorb like every person as a unique almost force of nature, is an example of at least some maybe of what the organizations are bringing. And it just relates to something that I've thought about a lot with integral communities, because there's a million and one ways to like disagree, and integral just jacks that up to like the nth degree. Now everybody can debate about levels of development and all this kind of stuff, and I think that's all good, juicy debate and relevant. Like everybody has an interesting point, but what I've seen repeatedly is what trumps that is the willingness and ability to create consensus, or create essentially nurture what's good there. Like Amir, when you were saying about not really finding a teal organization, because yeah, in some ways I kind of agree. And then other times I think I have these peak experiences, and some of those peak experiences in hindsight, like I used to be with, enough people know about Andrew Cohen and Layer Next, like this was like 10 years ago. I'd have these peak experiences in them, and they since had enormous shadows and lots of like unhealthy stuff. But even in that situation, there were these glimpses of good stuff. So there's something about really being able to nurture what's good in here that just seems particularly integral, because I don't know that even just the simple word of integral is like you're trying to integrate what works, what's more beautiful, what's more true. So there has to be more of that than like disagreeing. And I think in some ways that's a bit of a habit of like some of green too. Like the relativity can have so much disagreement, like John was saying, like how do people come together to agree about beauty? I think people can, but there is so much of gravity in the culture of like really being able to endlessly run with everybody's like myopic individual perception instead of being able to bridge together and actually unite one person's view from another. So
Thank you, Paul. Gaelle, you got your hand up. Did you want to comment on
Yes,
that?
yes, I wanted to say something about this beauty thing. Actually, I think John was not seeing how we could all agree on something if we have different subjectivity. And actually, I'm thinking consensus is not part of Teal Organization. It's part of green. Everyone agrees. That's green. Teal organizations don't function like that. They function with the advice process, which means that there is only one person that takes the decision. The person who wants to do something, that's the person that takes the decision. And they get aware of the impact their decision has on other people, and they get to know all the knowledge and expertise around this thing, and then they make their decision. And so they can make a decision even though no one wants them to do this decision. So for this question of beauty, well, then this person, if someone wants to create something beautiful because they see an opportunity or something, they will just go for it. They will just consult with everyone, like all the people they need to, and then they make their decision, that conscious decision. And also, if they don't do the advice process, it can be consent. As I said, the consent is not everyone must agree. It's no one must disagree. If no one disagree, it's fine. You can go ahead. Even if someone thinks, oh, I think I've got a better idea than this one, maybe we could do this instead. Well, that's not a good reason for giving the veto and disagreeing. So basically, you just need to have yourself a sense of beauty for something, and you just go ahead. So it's less difficult than the green consensus to have everyone agrees on what's beautiful or what's not.
Thank you, Gaelle. I just want to make a couple of comments. One, to kind of make some points about that Gaelle had made about the role of the CEO and the board, and then also a kind of a comment somewhat about what Paul Fryer had said earlier about how there's a certain minimal level of integralness, whatever term you want to use. In terms of what Gaelle had said about that in an organization, the only two groups that really need to be teal, yellow, integral, whatever term you want to use, are the CEO and the board. And I guess what I would add to that is, and this is something that Daryl could I think would probably agree with. Itzhak Adizes talks a lot about in his works about the concept of CAPI, coalesced authority, power, and influence. In other words, if you want to make decisions, you have to bring into that decision process the people who have the authority, the power, and the influence. And I think that what a CEO or board member of a Teal organization has to bring to that is, rather than fulfilling those roles from the standpoint of an authority figure or a power broker, they need to think of it in terms of their role as being a skilled influencer. So it's a shift away from power and authority, or authority and power, to influence. And the final point I wanted to make about what Paul had talked about, you know, and I think Wilbur talks a lot about, well, we really, in order for a real transition to take place, we have to have 10% of the population has to be integral. And I think he argues that maybe 5%'s there. And I've read, in Beck and Cohen's Spiral Dynamics, I think they say 2%. Well, when Jonathan was giving his presentation last week, he mentioned some stuff that encouraged the heck out of me. And he was talking about, when he was talking about Kohlberg's theories, he talked about the post-conventional level of that evolution. And Kohlberg himself said that only about 10 to 15% of the people have the capacity. Well, I look at that from the standpoint of, well, probably 10 to 15% do have the capacity to be post-conventional. Well, what encouraged me about that is we're already there. We're not lingering around 2% trying to figure out how to leverage it up to 10. We're there. And I find that very encouraging.
Post-conventional might also include green.
Well, yeah. Well, you dashed my hopes. No, I'm sorry.
But he's right.
Yeah, no. But anyway, Gaelle, go ahead.
Yes, about the 10% thing. Because of the book, Reinventing Organizations book, I'm thinking we don't necessarily need 10% or anything like that. What we need is the president or the prime minister or whatever person, whoever governs a country, and the parliament or probably, to be willing to move the country into teal, yellow, for it to happen. Because Frederic Laloux said he's seen no company so far who has been able to shift to teal if the people were the employees or middle managers. It never worked. But the only way it could happen was when the CEO decided he wants to give up power and make the company become teal. And the board also needs to be on board. To some degree, it can function even without the board agreeing, but since the board can fire the CEO, then it's better if the board is also on board. So that's the only way he found that companies could move into teal. And so that's what I think also that could be the case for countries. If the highest people in the government, like the highest governing people, have to want to give up the power to everyone, to distribute power to everyone. If they want to do this, then it can happen. Maybe I'm crushing your hopes, I don't know. But that's what Frederic saw in all the companies he he studied. So it may be what could happen also for the countries. Only if the president and the parliament want to do it, then if they want to do it, then it will happen. And doesn't matter whether people are at green or blue or red or whatever, it can happen. But unless the president and the parliament or the government don't want, it won't happen.